amazing world.
Welcome again, dears. We are about to start our third unit of this book.
In this episode, we are going to talk about 1. The second part of our story, The Boy from the Past. 2. Comparatives.
Now, let's continue our story, The Boy from the Past. The next day, they went to meet Professor Hussam, an old friend of the family. Layla was studying the stones in the back of the car. The first piece was larger than the second one, and its marks were clearer.
Mariam, Professor Hussam is a specialist in ancient history and archaeology. He is also a very close friend of your grandfather. In fact, they met when they were only 7 years old.
That's a long time ago.
The professor was cleverer than all the other boys in the school, but your grandfather was much better at sport.
When they arrived at the professor's house, he led them into his study. There were hundreds of books. Omar was amazed. The professor examined the larger piece of stone. He grew very excited.
Are these Phoenician letters, Professor? Yes, they are.
Can you understand them?
Well, it's a difficult language, but it's easier to read than Chinese. This piece tells the story of a boy
My name is Amir. I come from the city of Tireh. My people are sailors and traders. I love my family's ship. It's faster than the wind and more beautiful than all the other ships. We travel to many countries and carry home precious objects of silver and gold. But there are also thieves in this world, and we must
The story stops here. May I see the other piece?
I think it's a map, Professor.
Yes, you're right. It's definitely a map. And look, there are strange marks too. This piece is more complicated than the first one. May I take photos of them? Yes, of course. And thank you for all your help, Professor Hussam. It was a pleasure.
After they got home, Omar and Layla received a mysterious email. It was from a stranger. He wanted to help them to understand their stone pieces. But who was he? Now, let's check our comprehension to the text by answering these questions. 1. Which stone piece is larger?
The first piece is larger.
2. Was the professor a good student at school?
Yes, he was.
3. What language is on the first piece?
The language is Phoenician.
4. Who wrote the carvings?
A boy called Amir.
5. What does the professor say is on the second piece?
He says there's a map and some strange marks on it.
Now, let's start our grammatical journey. Today, we are going to talk about
Comparative adjectives.
we form the comparative forms of a one-syllable adjective by adding er.
Example: tall, taller. Old, older.
Now we form the sentence of comparative by this way.
Adjective plus er plus than.
Example: Mary is taller than Lynn.
With most two-syllable adjectives, we form the comparative with more. More plus interesting becomes more interesting. More plus helpful becomes more helpful.
More plus adjective plus than.
Example: the queen is more beautiful than the witch.
Attention!
There are irregular adjectives: good, better, bad, worse, far, further, or farther. Now, let's do this exercise.
Fast, faster. Complicated, more complicated.
The last exercise for today. Let's compare these two things below, football and basketball.
Football is more interesting than basketball.
Cola, orange juice.
Orange juice is more delicious than cola.
Cars, buses.
Cars are faster than buses.
Finally, I wish you got the benefit from our lesson today. Study very hard. See you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.